Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson, and this is Island Update. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, and I'm on the island of Great Cranberry in Maine. I am back to down, and I'm going back in the house to get a hat. It's just wacky. But despite that, I wanted to show you this. I am so happy to see this daffodil, and so stum-tum. Yeah, we're celebrating spring. Come on, girl. Come on, careful. Oh, you don't want to break the flower. We just got. Tum-tum wants to smell the garden, so I'm going to stand here for a minute and we're going to talk. The dogs have been very resilient to the changeability in the weather. They just go tuck in and hide under the blankets and just wait. So I'm not a patient person anyway, and have been trying to be very forbearing with the 2 months that we've been basically kept here without being able to go on the mainland. It's not like we can't, but we've been strongly encouraged to stay and just to respect the social distancing, social boundaries, and this and that. And I have been a advocate for that, although I've been posting some things on my Facebook page showing other people's points of view. For one was about masks and, whether they're actually helping people or hurting people. And now the social distancing, which is starting to show, there's statistics coming out, and what they're calling diseases of despair are becoming an issue, a real issue. People that don't know if they'll ever get released from social isolation, from being in their homes. And if you're older, they're saying that could be months down the road. And that kind of proposition, I think, is intolerable, to tell people they could be isolated without seeing another person, touching another person, except for, rarely. I was listening to a person last night at the end of a Zoom meeting, and they were talking about the fact that they hadn't seen a person or touched anybody in several months and didn't know if they ever could. And they were afraid that if they got to the doctor, because they had to do some blood work for their condition, they had a serious condition, that they were afraid they would burst out crying when the doctor touched them to administer a shot, just because of the tension that they're under. People haven't committed crimes. They have been diligent about getting flu shots, although there's so much out there about flu shots getting you sick. People talking about it. It's like you go into a room and you say, hey, anybody have any side effects to the flu shot? And, I've been around a lot of older people, my mom's group of folks, and it's like, it's a constant, strong reaction that people have gotten sick over flu shots. And vaccines in general. The movie Vaxxed is out. I suggest you look at it. Robert De Niro was involved in helping get that out there, and then it was banned or censored, and now it's back up on YouTube, VAXXED. And then you'll see people vociferously fighting against this, and I respect the people that do, because they know the importance of vaccines and how they've helped eradicate serious illness, polio and smallpox, etc. So there's differences, I think, in certain things. I mean, one thing doesn't necessarily mean that it's good in all situations. And I think we have to recognize that. So, the UK right now is doing this color coding that reminds me of 9/11, when we had these terror alerts, different color codes, orange alert, yellow, orange, red, We were always an orange alert, and when we were there, we were supposed to buy duct tape, or I never did, but people ran out and depleted the stores of duct tape, and what else was it? Oh, God. You were supposed to do something, some magic formula to fix your fear that they pump up. And now the R factor is what it is in see these traffic light colors that they're using. It reminds me of 9/11 exactly. It's like a blueprint, where the red all the way down to yellow, but it hovered between orange and yellow. Right now, it's supposedly where they're at, and it's determined by some R factor. And what R factor used to be over there was the rate of infection, meaning it was simple. So it was just, if it was less than 1, it means that it's declining. That means one person infects one other person. If it's greater than that, it's increasing. But now they're saying the head woman in Scotland was saying that it's an unknown. You can't know it, but it's directing these color codes. So somebody knows what this R factor is now. There's some new formula for recalculating it to make it more invisible to the public. And I just think, I wrote a note, I think what's getting clear to me anyway, and I'm trying to withhold judgment and wait for more information, but I just think, having seen it up close before, seeing the way we all were led into a war based on lies, we know that. I mean, that's it's practically, it used to be considered a disqualification for anybody that if they voted for the war in Iraq based on these lies, they weren't considered a suitable candidate to many people. That's to use lies to get people to the WMD was a lie, and it was propagated by people in positions of power to try to get us to get into a war with Iraq, a country that never attacked us at 9/11. If in fact any country ever did attack us, and that is disputable. So we're getting to where we just our heads are spinning to the point where we can't just say what is with any confidence that someone's not going to step on our throats and say, out with you. And I just love that this Greg Anderson of Seattle, a police officer, has spoken out about his concerns that the police are expected to do these things that are not constitutional, to arrest people that are taking their child for a walk or attending church or doing something that's just a mentally healthy thing to do, that's not trying to hurt other people, but exercise their rights within a respectful framework. You're not going to go out and put your hands on somebody who's frail or elderly, but people should take proper precautions like they did in Sweden. They still respected things there, but they generally did not just lock everybody up. Reasonable precautionary movements and actions are what's being called for. And when we're asked to do things that just promote fear in the public, I think it's wrong. So going back to what I was reading about or hearing about in the UK is that there was a whistleblower that started talking about some things that they had overheard at high levels in the government that they were discussing openly, and that they were encouraging them to use duplicitous language and confuse the population, because when people are unclear and they're confused, they're instructable and they're willing to submit to house arrest, which is basically what and remain under it, which is basically what they're considering it over there. They're talking about it that way. We still have, we're still being sort of careful about how we talk about it here, because we're not quite ready to sort of draw conclusions of any kind. We're still, we're still trying to be caring and concerned and opening, like in Maine, we're going to be opening up certain counties to sort of see how it goes. And of course, when you do that, the rates will probably go up, because we've been flattening this curve, but we're going to get hit. What are they going to do with the information when they say, oh yeah, well, it's going up in these places where we started to reopen? It's not that it's going to be reopened. It's what are they going to do when they see the numbers go up? Are they going to use that as an excuse to shut us all down again? Or are they going to just say, look, we have to expect it. It's going to run its course. And as apparently viruses have a 6 weeks, that's generally their time frame. And certainly seems to be in other cases. And our peak is going down. So now they're saying, well, you still have to remain, even though the peak is down, there's going to be a second resurgence. And I think it's just time to consider that if there is the peak is going down, it is time to get us to a point where we're all relating to each other. It may go up again, but at some point we can't live the rest of our existence like this. The numbers just don't bear it out. They're even a wildly horrific epidemic can be managed with proper protocols and working on various treatments. The vaccine is, in my mind, not a solution. I will go on record in saying that because of because of who's in charge of that, because of the money that they stand to make, because of the problems in other countries using vaccines for forced sterilization, and who knows what could go into the vaccine. I'm not going to allow anything like that in me. They're already trying to sign people up in Chicago and pre-register them for vaccines, and they'll have a check-in that's on their phone. It's not even downloadable. It just pops right up, and then you're going to have to check in on it, just like you're like sort of some sort of prisoner out on bail, but you have to check in with your to make sure that you're not violating parole conditions or something. It's making us all feel like we've done something wrong and we have to rectify it. And that's what house arrest feels like, when you're being coerced and forced to do something. And as I was saying, I think it's deliberate mind manipulation with this color coding thing. And it gets the main concern with the lockdown, and I'm calling it lockdown because I believe that is the intent of it, whether they're calling it that or not. But I think it's just giving the government opportunity to repurpose government agencies. You're already hearing about how AI is going to start coming back in, doing school from away and not necessarily through buildings. And why would they have? If they'll never get an opportunity like this again to get us to all be willing to suspend and stop all of these agencies that we have, these governmental agencies that are required to take care of people, schools, institutions, various public service agencies. There's really, I just think that there is no incentive. There is no incentive for them to start all of these things back up again, and there's every incentive to continue to pilfer from our government, to continue pilfering from people and the provisions that have been established to take care of us, our well-being, our Social Security, our Medicare, our programs, our jobs, our institutions of higher learning in general, any place that they can replace us with something else and make more money off of it. I am just thinking this is a horror of a rollout. It's not the thing itself, it's what they make of it and use of it. It wasn't 9/11, as bad as that was itself. It's what they ended up doing with it, getting us in a permanent war on terror. And this is getting us in a permanent state of lockdown, where we're going to suffer genocide far worse than just from the virus itself. The fact that people are put into suicide situations, domestic abuse situations, child molestation situations, lack of jobs, starvation, lack of ability to take care of themselves, hospitals being locked down, not to reopen perhaps. The whole thing is a giant fiasco, and if we don't start blowing the whistle now and hard, I think we're going to be, before we know it, we're going to be under the thumb. So I'm raising the flag here, and I don't give a crap about what comes out of it. I've been told to take a video down before because I was saying things that weren't, considered acceptable. I'm not going to say by whom or how. But I'm not taking this video down. So there you are. Take it and do with it what you will. This is Island Update, May 12th. Bye.